Hello everyone. Hope you're having a good day. Zishan here, and this is English with Z. So, in this video, I'll be going over the marking scheme of the specimen paper for 2024 examinations for Cambridge English 1123. And the purpose is to explain what is expected of the candidate when they are attempting the paper, what is expected as a response, and how they can gain those marks. Right? And so the candidate can keep that in mind when attempting such papers for practice, and obviously when attempting the paper during the examination session and scoring the best marks possible. I have already done two videos for the reading paper, that's paper one, right? The in parts one and part two, they cover the general marking principles and the comprehension, and then part two has the summary. So do check them out as well. All right. So here we see the marking scheme for paper two, right? And before, right, the first thing to know is that there are general marking principles, six of them that are applied by examiners throughout the paper in both paper one and paper two. And I've gone over this in detail in the earlier videos that I've mentioned. So if you want to know about this in detail, please take a look at those videos. Moving on, right, to the actual questions. So question one in the writing paper is the directed writing task. And right, we've covered how this task has changed. It used to be a prompt with bullet points about what the expected content should be. Now they changed it to a single or two texts about a topic which offers opinions, ideas, right? And where the candidate is expected to read through that and gather ideas and form their own. So those are the texts, and this is the question, right? So based on that text, the candidate is to write a magazine article for young people about the advantages and disadvantages of traveling to other countries, right? For the article, evaluate the ideas and opinions in both texts and then give your own views based on what you have read in the text about traveling to other countries. Base your article on what you have read in both and be careful to use your own words. So, right, each of these is important to understand for the candidate, right? Using your own words, addressing both texts, covering both disadvantages and advantages, giving your own views, all of that is important, and that will be mentioned in the marking criteria as well. Address both bullet points, so those are these two. Begin your article with a suitable headline. Since they're asking you to do that, do it. Write about 250 to 350 words, and that's 25 marks in total. So 10 marks for the content and 15 for the quality of writing. Okay, so the content is coming from the text and your own views, and then the quality of your writing, how well you've presented it, how well you've structured it, right? All of that for 15 marks. Now let's take a look at the actual right marking scheme. These are the assessment objectives, W1 to W5, right? All the five writing objectives will be assessed in this question, and that's right 15 marks. And R3 and R5, right? So to analyze, evaluate, and develop facts, ideas, and opinions using appropriate support from the text. Obviously, that's what the question is. And then select and use information for specific purposes. So, of course, you're going to take those facts or ideas from the text and then present them as an article for specific purpose. That's R5. So those are the marking, the assessment objectives, and the two reading objectives are worth 10 marks, right? That's where you're getting the ideas from the text. All right, this is a repeat of the question. Now, uh, right, these are the possible responses, the possible ideas that can be taken from text one, right? So there's how many of these? You've got five of these, and then the possible uh, points that can be taken from text 2. So again, five of these, and that's not all, right? So you have to evaluate them. So this is possible evaluation. This, right, from text 1 and text 2, and then how the synthesis goes in, right? So how you put it all together, you organize it, you give it order, you express one to the other, right? So again, not going into the actual answer itself. So again, first those points, then evaluation, and then synthesis. Now, obviously, when writing the article, it's not going to be done in steps. It's going to be presented as the final product, right? So all of this process of picking out the points and then evaluating them and then synthesizing it, right, has to be done by the candidate before producing the final response on paper. And I'll cover that soon in a video to come where I discuss how the candidate should attempt the paper, right? So stay tuned for that. Okay, now let's take a look at the possible synthesis of ideas. The voice in text 1 is older, whereas text 2 is from the perspective of a young person who traveled widely after A levels. Both texts agree, right? So again, right, the synthesis is the comparative, noting that there's an older person whereas a younger person. Both texts agree that travel has some advantages, but text one argues that people should spend more time getting to know their own country rather than going abroad. Text two focuses on the advantages for young people from traveling to other countries. Right, again, text one cites the impact of air travel on the environment. Text two doesn't acknowledge this at all, and candidates may express their own views on this, right? So there's somewhere where the question says own views. Well, this is somewhere where they can do it. Text two seems more directed at young people, whereas text one may focus on older people. So obviously, the person giving the views, uh, that can be something to judge from, right, who the expected audience is for that particular text. uh, Also, text 2 seems more idealistic and just focuses on the positive. So that's something to be expected from the young, right? So they're energetic, they're out there, and they're looking at positives and want to go out and explore and experience. So that's one thing, and that's something where the candidate can give their own views as well, right? So what are the level descriptors? Okay, for reading, that means the ideas that the candidate is going to pick out from the texts. Level 1 attempts to identify a few relevant points from the text, evidence of some focus on the task, right? So it's just like very, very low level. It's just like a weak attempt, right? Maybe the candidate didn't really get it, uh, some other issue, right? Possibly. And so it's a very weak attempt, and so just 1 to 2 marks at best. Keep in mind that these marks are reflective of the, right, the content that you deliver. So if you've given two valid points in the content, you're going to get 2 marks, but not necessarily, right, as I'll mention later on. So level 2, 3 to 4 marks identifies some relevant points and occasional development, right? So here's where the development comes in. You're trying to uh, give detail or explain or justify, right, that point. Mid-range identifies sufficient relevant facts, ideas and opinions, some development of ideas in a reasonably focused response. Right, so there is some focus and organization. The candidate knows what they're talking about to a certain extent, not entirely, but right, somewhat. Level 4, 7 to 8 marks, so that's the good range. Right, selects a range of relevant facts, ideas, and opinions, some analysis, evaluation, and development, and a clear focus on the task. Right, so the candidate is focused, they know what they're doing, and they're getting it done. Right, and this is the ideal, right? Everyone wants theirs. Selects a wide range of relevant ideas, facts, opinions, analyzes, evaluates, and develops the chosen content in a way that clearly fulfills all elements of the task. So it's just like perfect, well done, right? It's like, yeah, so can't get any better than that. So those are the level descriptors for the content. Now, again, as I mentioned, if you're given 10 points for content, 10 marks. But if you haven't developed or analyzed or evaluated them properly, if you haven't presented them properly, then you don't get those 10 marks, right? You may get less. You may get 7 or 5 or something, right? Depending if you, right, how you've presented them or how you've developed them. Secondly, right, the 15 marks for writing. So obviously, if there's no credible content, then no marks. 1 to 3 marks, that's level 1. Content is simple with a little development of ideas. Organization and structure rely largely on sequence in original text, so own words have not been used. Attempts to use simple sentence structure, so there's no compound or complex sentences and no use of punctuations to form larger pieces of text and sentences, more complicated, right, structures. No, uses some simple vocabulary, so the vocabulary is also simple, it's very basic. Some accuracy in simple spelling, punctuation, grammar. So accuracy in simple spelling, punctuation, grammar, like as soon as the candidate attempts something a bit more challenging or more advanced, the spelling, the punctuation, the grammar, it all, right, just doesn't work. Okay, then level 2, which is 4 to 6. So what we have here, the content is straightforward with occasional development, right? So sometimes the candidate has attempted to develop it further, but other than that, they've just given the points from the text. Occasional attempt to organize and structure ideas from the text, uses simple sentence structures accurately, which may be repetitive. So simple sentence again, 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 right? Uh, at this point, it could be said that at least the candidate is doing what he or she believes can be done properly. It may be repetitive, but at least they're sticking to their guns, right? Uh, Trying something new and getting it wrong, especially during an examination, is far more risky than doing what you know you can do well, right? Uses a range of simple vocabulary which may be repetitive, a little awareness of appropriate tone or register. So the article, who it's addressed to, how, what kind of language the article should have. Again, it's for young people, right? It's about traveling, so it could be upbeat, perhaps, right? Semi-formal or informal, definitely not formal. Generally accurate use of more simple spelling, punctuation, grammar, so not greatly improved from level 1, but right, some improvement nonetheless. Level 3, content is relevant with some development, so we're getting better at this. Some attempt to organize and structure ideas from the text, uses most sentence structures accurately, sometimes attempting complex ones with success. Right, so it's not just simple, it's compound, and sometimes complex ones as well with success. So bravo. Uses a straightforward range of appropriate vocabulary, right? So we're not going into the more uh, complex or difficult or fancy words, right? Straightforward, appropriate, good enough, right? Some awareness of an appropriate tone and register of audience and purpose, uses a straightforward range of spelling, punctuation, grammar, right? So this is mid-range. It's we can do better, we want to do better, but right, this is, yeah, okay. So we have some understanding. We are attempting this, well and good. Then content is developed in effective, secure organization, uses a range of sentence structures, effective use of a range of vocabularies. We're getting really good at this. We're using better, we are developing better. We are using a better range of vocabulary, better sentence structures, complex ones, right? Grammar and everything. And then we get to level 5, which is you can read it, right? You've done like great, you've done really well, right? Congratulations. And this is, I mean, you can't get better than that, right? So that's the marking criteria for the directed writing task.